Do you find that more people were there for the experience and the parties, or were people actually racing? All right, a different setting. We got our live audience today. We've got something special for you. This is season 2, episode 9 of the 11Tenths podcast. Randy, who do we have today?
We have our friend Hamid. Hamid is lucky enough to experience the Gumball 3000 rally. He's a friend of ours, and he's going to recount the experiences that he had last week. He just got back a couple of days ago from the rally. And,
still recovering.
Still recovering.
All right, get out of there.
Petite.
Mainly he's in front of my drink, so.
I know.
Welcome,
sacrilege.
Sir. Something a little different today.
Yeah.
So, wonderful introduction. That was Randy, co-owner of 11Tenths. I'm Milk for Coffee, and we said it earlier.
Yes, sir.
Hamid will follow you on driven_proper.
Correct.
At the Instagrams out there on the line.
Instagram.
Let's not fart around here. Let's get right into it. Friday night, party night, day 0.
Oh, man.
You were part of a team. That's how we started this whole venture, right?
Yeah.
So
team number 44, which is Oro Station.
Okay.
Oro Station's a beautiful racetrack facility, private racetrack facility being built up near Barrie Airport.
Country club-esque is what they're going for, I'd say.
Yeah, like Area 27. It's a fantastic place that's being built.
Oh, they're running an old 60-something Mustang.
Yeah, 66 Mustang.
Okay.
And this thing is beautiful. It's got a amazing brand new Ford racing motor in it, because the motor that was in it, which was also a 347-stroker Ford racing motor, managed to have some catastrophic issues a week out from the race itself.
You were saying, like, what? Dyno installed everything. They got to the line day of late.
We installed it late at night, the night before Gumball, and the morning of Gumball, we had it on the dyno, and we had the tuner doing his beep boop and doing the whole break-in on the dyno, and a couple of good pulls. We got up to about 350 wheel horsepower on that puppy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll do. So we talked about day 0. Day 0 is Yorkville. We started in Toronto. That's the main thing.
Yes.
Gumball 3000.
It links back to 2906, which is the Cannonball run from New York to LA.
And now they've done it in Europe. They've done it in Canada before, I believe.
Yeah, a few years ago.
This one right now, they're starting, the goal is 3,000 kilometers roughly, right?
The goal has always been 3,000 miles for every single Gumball. So it started in downtown Toronto, and it was supposed to loop through the U.S. right down to Miami, and then we were going to drive all the cars onto a barge and take them right down to Havana to do our last little leg and cross the finish line. But the Havana portion got cut by some political issues.
Oh, unfortunate.
Quite. That would have been spectacular to have our cars all throughout Havana and just the sights and the roads and the beauty. It just...
Yeah, that would have been something else for sure.
But it is what it is.
And my understanding is obviously the whole trip was a party, which we'll get into, but day 1 was basically party right off the bat.
Yeah. So, it started with Deadmau5 performing almost all day in Yonge Dundas Square, which is our big downtown core, kind of similar to like Times Square and Piccadilly Circus. You've got screens everywhere as digital billboards just covering the entire 360 degrees around, and every single screen had all of Gumball's marketing videos and their logos just beautifully paired up.
Now, what about just along the street too? Like everything basically from Yonge Dundas Square all the way to Eaton Center.
There was also just an erroneous amount of people from Toronto just out, and from outlying cities.
Everywhere. I know people who were coming from all over, like Southern Ontario, to kind of come take a look, because some exotic cars. Speaking of which, exotic cars, how many participants were there?
So there were 110 cars, and it was perfectly split down the middle, with 55 cars being Gumball alumni, is what they call it, and then 55 cars that were people who've never been on a Gumball before, which was really nice.
I have a burning question that's been kind of killing me this whole time, because I hear 110, but I only saw like 30 or 40. Was it actually 110, or were there people coming up along the way, or what was the story?
So that's the total number, but there was a lot of cars that just couldn't make it into the border, so they were stuck in Detroit, so we'd meet them along the way when we hit Detroit. And there were also people who just joined for a certain leg, like some people joined just for the first day or two, some people met in Nashville, some people were only around from Tampa to Miami, and just depended on their schedule. I mean, a lot of these guys can't devote 9 to 10 days or even 12 days to this rally.
It's impressive, because I mean, I like to think a lot of them are, fly boys, fly girls that take the day off of work or a week off of work, but that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of which, like, some of the people were working on tour. Like Deadmau5 was pretty much every night, from what I could tell, he was doing something while he was part of the tour.
We were at the Indy 500 in Indianapolis, and while the race was going on, Deadmau5 was performing in a stage in the infield with a whole bunch of pyrotechnics and everything going on, and a huge crowd.
Well, you guys were backstage, right?
Yeah. So, like, you know, being part of the Gumball and being one of the team members, you get to kind of go wherever you need on most of the events and occasions we were in. So we were able to go backstage and just see Joel do his thing. And
what was he driving?
He was driving a 720S, I believe, or 765, one of those fancy McLarens wrapped up in this beautiful red livery.
Dial back. I remember you saying that basically at the border, you guys got your own gate, or two gates.
I've participated in a lot of rallies that have gone cross-border, and I've crossed the border countless times, like multiple times a week, most times pre-COVID. And I have never once seen the border set aside like that. Like, it would have been slower to go through Nexus. We had guys ushering us into a private line with all the barricades going right down into the gate. Right as you entered the border, as you entered the duty-free building, there was a sign that said, Gumball 3000, we welcome you to the border. And you drive over the bridge, down Ambassador Bridge, and there's a guy saying every single nice car that's part of Gumball just ushers you in. Anyone that's stickered up ushers you into that lane. And there's a guy there, and above it, it says Gumball 3000 drivers only, and there's 2 lanes just for us. We handed the guy our passport. 12 seconds at most later, we are through the border and on the highway just booting it. As soon as we went across the border, we rolled right into a giant EDM music festival. And we parked our cars right into the festival, had a bypass to the line, went into our Gumball lounge, which was all air conditioned and perfect and full of food, drink, and everything you can imagine. And our lounge is literally behind the main stage. So we were able to just walk up a short little staircase and we're backstage.
Okay, let's dive into the weir a little bit here. So we've talked about yourself and Oro Station, but what other types of people are buying tickets and participating in? Like, who are these people? Because I know I was there to see you off, and I see actors, I see drivers, I see people with obviously big money. Let's start there. Entry fee, I heard a rumor. Maybe you can confirm.
It's in sterling, and it is significant.
Okay.
It is cheaper if you're an alumni.
Let's just say that's fair.
Low 6 figures.
Low 6 figures in Canadian. Okay. To participate. Now, that's not the same. Like you said, alumni, and then support cars are less and stuff like that. Now,
that only covers your hotel and access to the Gumball events. That doesn't cover, some of the meals are covered, a lot of them rather, but it doesn't cover, your nightclub expenditures, your fuel, which some of these guys are using over 40 liters per 100 kilometer, which is just manic.
It's a different scale. Before we get people, talking about all this stuff, and the world is in all sorts of great and not so great places. We're not going to dive into that. But the fact is this is another level of people being able to participate. This is why we want to talk about it and bring you a little bit of insight, because Hamid was lucky enough to go do it. And the thing is we do rallies, we do cruises, and it's not the same. And that's one thing that you want to remember here is that money obviously is a lot, but at the same time, there's a lot of philanthropy. Like, I remember leaving Toronto, how much did they raise? Like 300,000, wasn't it?
Oh, it was way more than that. One team alone, I believe, raised 200 to 300,000 pounds.
And like that was, I don't know what the cost.
Between two teams alone, they raised over $1 million Canadian easily.
Yeah, and we're not talking. That wasn't going to Gumball. That was going to donations.
Well, it's the Gumball Foundation. So there's a few different groups and charities that they support. I don't know them off the top of my head.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in Detroit, driving quickly. You've covered some time, right?
Yeah. So the length of the 401.
You should probably tuck in early, have a good night's sleep, have a good meal. What time did you actually stay up till in Detroit?
Well, that's not the Gumball way. For perspective, the first night in Toronto, I think we might have left at 4 or 5 in the morning from the after party. And, it was an early morning for me, as I wanted to get photos of all the cars as they had the morning dew and the rain from the night before on all the cars in the morning. It was just beautiful.
Indy was after Detroit. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
from Detroit, we went straight to Indianapolis, which was a long drive.
So what time are you leaving in the morning? Like, obviously everyone's partying at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I get that. We'll just summarize that's every night. But
Some nights a little later.
So what time were you leaving in the morning? Was it like, all right, we got to get up early and we're leaving at 8, or was it pretty casual, like let's have a coffee and
Well, it depends on the group. I mean, you can imagine with 110 teams, and some cars have 4 seats and they use all 4 seats. You know, there's groups that leave at certain times. I mean, David Hasselhoff was famous for leaving first thing in the morning every morning.
Okay.
And
did he do the whole Gumball?
Oh yeah.
I thought it was just left out of Toronto.
No.
Oh, okay.
So he was the DD for his team. You know, his mentality was he's done this so many times that he wants his friends to have fun. So they all partied till whatever time in the morning.
Okay.
And Hoff was there to take them to stop and be that DD driver.
See, I know he was doing the flag drop for the start. I honestly thought that he was just there for that.
And there was a lovely lady who had a perfect replica of Kit, which he rolled down that start-finish line in and drove a little bit in before hopping in a comfy SUV, of course.
What was he driving then?
I think it was an Escalade. If I'm not
Interesting.
mistaken. It was a big, comfy SUV. I mean, it all blurs together when you're rolling down the highway.
Well, yeah, no, there was a whole bunch
Escalades,
of stuff.
G-Wagons, Cullinans, Uruses, whole lot of Rolls Royces like Ghosts
What
and
were the first 2 cars? I know this for a fact. They paid extra to start first. I don't know how much.
They didn't pay extra. They raised extra.
Gotcha.
So the grid is decided on who raises the most amount of money. And at that pre-party where we were at the Jack Astor's overlooking the Deadmau5 concert, those guys were donating and getting money brought in by the minute. And they had announced a certain team that won. And they were just about to cut off in the last minute of the tally, and they had to refresh the page because another team had just taken over them, and they're raising hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, these guys, okay, so what was it? These guys won, and they had a McLaren P1. Was the second car. I saw it. What was the first car?
It was a green 812 Superfast.
Yeah. Other guys that were there, Shmee, which some people may know.
Yeah, a lot of famous YouTubers were there. Pog from Belgium. You've got Shmee. There was, Damon and Dave from DDE, which was lovely to see.
Yeah, they were in a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Aventador, I think.
Yeah, an Aventador. I think it was like an SVJ. It's just absolutely insane with the loudest exhaust by far and the most spirit out of all the Lamborghini drivers. It was lovely.
Okay, so you drive to Indianapolis at the regulated speed limits of every posted sign, right?
Sure.
And then you get there, and you guys literally were at Indy.
Through downtown and into Monument Circle, which is a big deal. And all the cars were parked lining around the perimeter of Monument Circle, and they were left there for the few days we were there.
It's a moving museum is really what we're looking for. It's a ton of money, but it's a moving museum.
Well, I had a lot of people message us that they were just in town for the Indy, they had no idea this was going on, and they saw our cars and started DMing us.
With regards to Indy, you guys were there, you guys had a box, you guys watched the race kind of thing? Was that the story? Or?
Yeah, we had a whole segment of a grandstand set up for us, but there was also like a hospitality lounge and suite where we got to, there were some screens, and Piston Distillery out of the UK was a big sponsor of the rally, and they had a whole bar set up there with their vodka and their gin, and it was a fantastic day full of beautiful food and beautiful drink. We have that full day. We all go to bed really early.
So tell me, if I want to hear about the stories where you go to bed early. We want to hear about the stories of why you went to bed late.
So we had to get to Indianapolis as quick as possible to try and find a mechanic. The only issue is this is Memorial Day weekend. Finding a mechanic is tough. We found one, but he was also going to the Indy, which was a little tricky.
Okay.
So we ended up doing an oil change right in Monument Circle, which is very much not allowed.
What?
We went to the auto parts store, picked up jugs of oil. We picked up a little drain pan that also had a reservoir that you could put it into, and we did an oil change right there.
That's nuts.
Damon and Dave from DDE have a beautiful video on us doing that oil change. They even helped us out.
Okay.
It's really nice.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
So that explains why you were obviously up late that night.
Yeah.
Okay. But
through the sunset. With some good help from the VW Beetle team. They provided us some tools.
Yeah, those guys were at what, Hamilton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
they're actually not far from Cayuga.
Their car, I did a little bit of research. It's basically a hopped up rusted out, patinaed Volkswagen, but they had an upgraded motor, like a 2-liter something.
It's a $1 pizza delivery car.
Yeah.
That they bought a couple years ago and built up just for Gumball. As soon as they got their acceptance in, they just put blood, sweat, and tears into that, both of them.
I will say I'm impressed because they did it right, because they went with fuel injection right off the bat.
Yep.
The best way to probably run it smoothly is just throw whatever motor you've got, make sure that it's running on a more modern computer that you can basically tune. And they were solid. You had your Mustang, it's Team Oro, which I mean, obviously...
It was an eclectic pair.
Right.
The Mustang and the Beetle both did not have air conditioning. Me in the support car was living a pretty lavish life with air-conditioned seats and full-blast air conditioning.
Now, we've talked about the other cars, but what were you riding in?
So I'm riding in my daily driver, which I've been putting to its test. I haven't even had it 2 years, and I'm at about 80,000 kilometers driven by my own self. And it's a 2018 Porsche 911 two-wheel drive S model with the 3-liter twin-turbo motor.
It is a beautiful car.
Yeah.
We've been on track together. You are fast. He's a fast man.
It's fun.
But you're right, though. I mean, literally, it would be the most perfect, comfortable car, because here you are motoring along with everybody else, no problem, and comfortable. Right. And
there were a few nice Porsches on the rally.
Yeah.
Ken Griffey Jr., for example, had a beautiful matte black 992 with a full Techart kit. Every single Techart piece you could possibly imagine. And that thing was just smooth sailing.
Okay, what was your favorite car? You got 110 cars there. What was your favorite car?
The 66 Mustang, of course.
Okay, after the 66, nice. You see what he did there? After the 66 Mustang and your own 911. Out of what
my car doesn't come up on that list. It's okay.
So then what's on the list?
Oh man, I gotta hand it to the Team Warlord. I mean, they've got a 6x6 TRX with 1,000 wheel horsepower.
That's
and
how much power that thing has?
Oh yeah,
it's a big truck.
And that thing has a secondary fuel tank of over 300, I believe it's 370 something liters, in addition to the 120 liter stock tank. And that's the car that's doing over 40 liter per 100 kilometer.
Well, yeah.
Built to drive a good amount of kilometers.
It's funny, yeah. It's funny to have that auxiliary tank is good for a rally, for sure, but...
Until it has issues.
Not an on-road truck.
No, that vehicle had some issues where the fuel tank wasn't really working right when they shipped the car up here.
Oh.
I don't know exactly where it was shipped to, somewhere just across the border, and they were having issues. So they ended up having to fly down and pick up their engineer and tech, bring them back up, assess what was going on, and then fly back down, pick up parts in the warehouse, fly back up, do the job, and go back and forth. And flying commercial and shipping next day is just not an option when you're a day out from the rally. So thankfully, they've got a private aircraft.
Yeah, that helps.
It does.
It's a different level of people we're talking about.
So after Indianapolis, we drove down to Bardstown, and that was by far the best stop I've ever seen. It's the smallest, best little town in the entire U.S., and that is a fact.
Really?
It's the home of bourbon.
Okay.
We're not drinking bourbon today, but
there's a start.
It's the home of bourbon, and it has the oldest bourbon bar in the entire U.S.
Okay.
And the best part about it is Mammy's Kitchen. We drove in and were greeted by every single person in that town and probably neighboring towns, and it was just the biggest, most welcome party we've ever had. And then we walk right down through town, go to Mammy's Kitchen to have the best home-cooked Southern hospitality meals of all time, including those pies, peach cobbler, and the whole lot of it. It was just unreal.
Did you do any bourbon stops?
We had some bourbon, but we drove by a lot of the distilleries. There just wasn't really much time when you're flying down the highway to
There's
stop.
a trend here, because with Randy and I going down to Georgia, we made the same mistake where we just didn't have the time to stop. So we're going to have to do an actual bourbon tour at some point.
Yeah. Thankfully, I've got a fair bit of excuses to be down there. I'm normally down in Nashville once a year for work, so we normally stop off at a different distillery every single time.
There you go. Okay, so from there, was the last point then Miami?
Yeah, the very last stop for us was technically Miami. That's where where the finish line was. Mm-hmm. There was a bit of a hurricane-level torrential downpour following in while we were driving down to Key West.
Not great.
No. Well, another cool stop would have been Talladega. And you've got Bun B, who's a participant in the rally, brought his whole crew out and made us the best smash burgers of all times on a Martin's potato roll. It's a key. Followed by going in a NASCAR around Talladega.
So you guys actually went around. How fast did you get up? You were in a NASCAR.
I think it was 230 mile an hour was the fastest I managed to look down at. And we were taking those turns at well over 200 mile an hour as well.
You're getting taxied, I assume, right? You're not driving.
Yeah, but with NASCAR experience, you can actually go and do that yourself at Talladega as well as at the Tri-Oval in Daytona.
Okay. Very cool. Greg, you guys pull up to Hard Rock Hotel, and you've got a drone show.
Yeah,
and
the drone show was in Nashville. There might have been another drone show in Miami. I'm not sure.
But that was okay. All I remember seeing is the guitar on the hotel with Gumball 3000 going up.
Yeah, the hotel is a guitar, and we all stayed within the guitar. They pulled out all the stops. I mean, right when we got there, CeeLo Green's truck arrives, and they're still playing his hit song as he comes in. And
because CeeLo joined in the tour once you guys hit the States, right?
Yeah, when we hit Nashville, he came in with a bang at one of the pre-parties, or Yeah, pre-party.
I fanboyed a little bit over the most random person to join. It wasn't you.
Thank you.
For those of you that watch any type of Canadian commercial, the guy from BMO Bank of Montreal, who was also Winston, as a different character. I forgot the actor's name.
His name is Lamorne Morris, and he is a gem of a human. My goodness,
he is hilarious. So that was neat to see him. But like all sorts of just random people. So it's not just
Billy Magnuson was there from No Time to Die. I mean, he was Logan Ash, the CIA agent in that movie.
That's right. I forgot about that.
He had a fun time. I mean, he started with us in Toronto and rolled down right to, I believe it was Nashville or Atlanta, and then he had to fly off to Paris to go do a photo shoot.
Because they were driving an SUV of some sort.
It was a Rolls Royce, 4-door, in a beautiful gray color.
That, you know what, I'm not the biggest fan of the looks of the Rolls Royce SUV, but if you're going to be inside someplace... Oh, it was a sedan.
It was a sedan. It was not.
There was a Rolls SUV too, wasn't there?
There was a few.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any Rolls Royce would have been the ticket for travel on the inside.
Yeah.
That would have been a great choice.
I think that's the key to Gumball, is to drive a Rolls Royce. I mean, unless you want to have a really fun time going the speed limit.
Okay, let's be honest for a second here. I know when we started talking right off the bat, I will admit, I did not participate. But when he started to tell me what the routes and stuff were a little bit, I started looking. I'm like, what's the fastest way out of Toronto to Detroit? And I'm like, we can go here. It's really just the 401 or 403.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm leading to is the question. Do you find that more people were there for the experience and the parties? Or were people actually racing? Like, people were going fast. We know that. People were going fast within the speed limit.
There were tickets given out. I mean, we're not saints here. There is a winner. There's many winners of Gumball. There's a lot of people who just, cruising about their way, maybe doing 10 mile an hour over, nothing insane. And there were other people that were doing their absolute best to get to each checkpoint first.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their level of comfort.
Yeah, and there's been some positive and negative things associated with Gumball throughout the world. We won't get into that. But I mean, that's where you're kind of floating the line of obviously having a good time, because it doesn't have to be the Gumball 3000. There are plenty of other, as I mentioned, cruises that do the same thing. That
many of cruises, many of rallies.
Yeah, so that's not the point. Okay, so guys actually do try.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's different awards through Gumball. I mean, there's the Spirit of Gumball. There's the Against All Odds. There's Best Car, Fastest, Loudest. There's plenty of awards, but at the end of the day, it's not actually a race. It's just a fun rally between like-minded individuals. And I mean, Maximilian Cooper said it best, the founder of Gumball 3000. He said that Gumball, every single person that's in this room with us is someone. There's at the top of their level, they all matter in some way, shape, or form. So just talk to people, network, mingle. Sure, the parties are great, the driving is fun, the stops we go to, the crowd it brings is amazing, but the people of Gumball is really where it's at. Like, there's a bunch of stars that you can search up on IMDb, Wikipedia, and all that kind of jazz, Hall of Famers, but there's also just business moguls and normal people that just want to have a really good time that have made their way in some form of industry.
What was the weirdest thing? Like, I'm gonna give you an anecdote here. Mm-hmm. Michael Schumacher used to love going around pantsing people and ripping their shirts off. That was his thing when he got drunk and partied. That was Shmee's thing. So, what was the weirdest thing that was going on the Gumball?
I wouldn't really say weird, but I'd say legendary.
Okay.
And that was Billy Magnuson. Every time we were at anywhere that had music and a dance floor, that man just took off. He was a great dancer.
Lawnmower, like...
He even did the splits in the middle of an after party in Nashville. Crawling on the ground, running around, like Maximilian's trying to get him on the stage to sing, and he's just evading everyone who's trying to put him on stage.
I appreciate you coming out and talking about the experience. Obviously, you guys did covered a lot of ground, and it sounds like a lot of fun.
About 2,700 miles. We almost got to 3,000. I mean, that's where Havana would have come into play.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But I mean, overall, it seemed like a great time.
It's all right. On my way back, I hit 3,000 on the dot when I pulled into my hotel in Atlanta.
Smart man on the way back. When you came back to Toronto, you stopped and went through...
Well, the cliche road is Tail of the Dragon.
Right. So, I mean, if you're going to pick a road to go through, still on my bucket list too. But honestly, thank you for coming out and having a chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was something different. Don't worry, Randy's literally on the other side of the camera this time.
Hi, Randy.
So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. Maybe you have an anecdote or a cruise that you've been on that you want to share, and we'd appreciate you joining in. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.